At the end of World War II, Indonesia stood on the edge of a new beginning. After more than 3 centuries of Dutch colonial rule, the Japanese occupation had shattered the old order, and when Japan surrendered in 1945, Indonesian leaders Sukarno and Hatta declared independence. But the Netherlands wasn't ready to let go of its colony. What followed was not peace, but a new war. A war that the Dutch government called police actions, as if they were restoring order. In reality, they were full-scale military operations to reclaim a nation that no longer wanted to be ruled. Between 1947 and 1949, tens of thousands of Dutch troops were sent across the archipelago. Cities like Yogyakarta, Surabaya, and Bandung became battlefields, villages were burned, civilians were killed, and thousands of Indonesians were imprisoned or executed without trial. The Dutch framed their campaign as a fight against rebels and chaos, but for Indonesians, it was a struggle for freedom, for dignity, and for a voice after centuries of silence. As the conflict deepened, both sides committed grave atrocities. Dutch soldiers carried out mass executions, burned entire villages, and used torture against suspected resistance members. One of the most infamous examples was the Rawagede massacre in December 1947, where Dutch troops executed almost every adult male in the village, 431 men, in a single morning. In South Sulawesi, the forces led by Captain Raymond Westerling conducted mass shootings that left thousands dead, often without trial or proof of guilt. But the violence was not one-sided. Indonesian revolutionary groups also carried out brutal reprisals, especially during the chaotic early months of independence. In what became known as the Bersiap period, thousands of Dutch civilians, Indo-Europeans, and ethnic Chinese were killed by nationalist militias, often in acts of revenge and fear after years of oppression. The war blurred every moral line, turning liberators into killers and victims into aggressors. Ordinary soldiers and civilians were trapped in a cycle of revenge and propaganda, each side convinced of its own justice. In total, it's estimated that over 100,000 Indonesians died during the conflict, along with thousands of Dutch troops and countless civilians caught in between. Behind every number was a story of loss, survival, and the unbearable cost of empire. By 1949, international pressure, especially from the United Nations and the United States, forced the Netherlands to recognize Indonesian independence. But the scars remained, for those who fought, for those who suffered, and for two nations bound together by a shared and painful past. Today, the so-called police actions are remembered for what they truly were: a colonial war marked by atrocities on both sides, a war that exposed the limits of power, the dangers of pride, and the human toll of holding on to a past that was already gone.